It can be hard to find a pattern for baby socks that really stay on. These ones are very good for that. The way the cuffs are done keeps them in place better than most socks. This one part comes from a traditional Finnish wartime sock pattern called train socks. These have been knitted in fingering weight yarn. If you use thicker yarn, the socks will be a bit bigger. In fingering weight, the socks are for a small baby from birth to about 2 to 3 months, but you can of course make this foot part longer. Hello, I'm Tuula and I'm glad to share this tutorial with you. You need a bit of yarn that is suitable for baby. This one is special baby wool. It's 100% merino wool, but with the superwash treatment, machine washable. And I like to use the very short needles. I think they're 13 centimeters, but you can of course use longer double points too. And I'm working on 5 needles. These are bamboo. We need 41 stitches. And you can of course use any method of casting on. I have the long tail method, and I'm casting on directly 10 stitches per needle plus 1 on the last needle. But if you have slippery kinds of needles, then it's better to make all the 41 on one needle and then divide them up later. So just like this, and 10 per needle. And when I have 10, I just go straight on using the next needle. And so on, so that you will have 41 stitches divided on 4 needles, so that the last one has the extra one. Here I have the stitches, and then before starting the first round, knit the first and the last together, just so that they stay together and there won't be a gap here. So I'm moving the last extra stitch onto the first needle and knit them together. There. So that's my first stitch, and now we're going to do ribbing. Knit 2, purl 2. And of course it doesn't matter which technique you use for knitting, as long as you knit 2 and purl 2 always. So this is my first knitted stitch. Then I knit another, and then purl 2. Always 2. That was the first needle, and then continue. This needle starts with purl, purl 2, knit 2, and so on, and continue like this until you have 10 rounds of ribbing. 10 rounds of ribbing. I just finished the first round, and the next one just continues the same. And so on. I will now knit the 10 rounds of ribbing. So 10 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And after that we're starting this here first purl bit, but before starting to purl we will need 1 row of knitting, because otherwise it doesn't sit nice if you go straight from ribbing to purl. Knit 1 round. Just knit. The whole round. That was my knitted round done. And then purling for 8 rounds. Just purl whatever way you purl. The way I'm purling is the way it was taught in Finnish schools and also by my mother, certainly still in the 70s and probably much later. I know that many younger people now purl without lifting the yarn in front of the needle, like this here. But I find that I can do it, but I find it difficult, so I don't. So purl 8 rounds. Here's my 8 purl rows. And of course always check that you have finished the round at the right place. And then 8 knitted rounds. Just plain knitting round. 8 rounds. Here those 8 rounds. And then looking at the finished sock, we need another bit of purling. So again purling 8 rounds. Purling 8 rounds, just like the previous bit. So the cuff of the sock is starting to shape up. Just the last bit before starting the heel. First, before ribbing, again 1 round of knitting. And then after that 8 rounds of ribbing. So 1 round just knitting and then 8 rounds ribbing, just like here. Okay, now after this here 8 rounds of ribbing, we are ready to start the heel. Check that you are at the right spot, start of the round. The starting of the round is here, and we are going to make the heel on the first and the last needles of the round. And I'm now going to go to the end of the first needle, still ribbing this 1 more needle. There. And then we will make this here bit of the heel before starting to turn the heel there. And we knit it back and forth, the heel flap. So I now turned and I'm going to purl 2 of these needles. And on the purl row always lift the first stitch without knitting and lift it purlwise, like that, and then just purl. Purl the 2 needles. I know that some people make this in a very different way. Some people would put these needles together or divide them in some other way. I prefer not to make any changes. Right, so now I purled 2 needles and then turn. And we will knit back and forth, and you always knit on the right hand side, and then when we have turned it into the wrong side we purl. And when you are starting a knit row, you lift the first stitch without knitting it, and then you do it knitwise, just like that there, and then knit these 2 needles. Like that, and then turn and continue like this here. So lift the stitch without knitting and do that purlwise, and then purl these 2 needles. I have done a bit of it now, and we need 12 rows here, so that means 6 times back and forth. After those 12 rows we'll be here, and then we are starting to turn the heel. We started the heel flap on a purl row, so after going back and forth 6 times, 12 rows, we are at the end of a knit row here. I always start turning a heel on the purl row. There's probably other ways of doing it too. So turn. And knit this here first needle just normal. I'll speed it up. And now we are going to make the first decrease to turn the heel. And we will be leaving 4 stitches, which is 2 stitches on each of the needles in the middle of it. And then the decreases will always be the 3rd and the 4th on both needles. So I purl the first 2, just normal. And then I purl the next 2 together. There. And now we always turn after the decrease. And now we are on a knit row, and again pass the first stitch onto the other needle without knitting it, and then knit these 2. And on the next needle knit 2. And then we need a left leaning decrease here. Again, there are different ways of doing it. It doesn't matter which, but I'll do it the way I'm used to. So slip the first stitch and knit the other one, and pass the knitted stitch through the slipped stitch, like that. I'll show it again when we come to it the next time. And here again turn. And this is what we repeat until all these stitches have been used up. Also on the purl side, slip the first stitch without knitting it purlwise, and purl again those 2. And here in the middle you never slip it, you just knit it just as we have been doing. Purl those 2 and then purl the next 2 together. And turn and continue the same. Slip, knit 2, knit 2, and then again a decrease here. So first slip and then knit the next one and pass the knitted stitch through the slip stitch. So we can see now that it's starting to turn. And this is how you continue. Always purling the third and the fourth together on the purl side, and the same here. Always the third and the fourth together. And you keep going until all these will have been used up. Here that's done now. So we only have the 6 stitches left, 3 on each of the needles. That's how it looks like on one side and here on the other side. And now we need to pick up stitches. I will pick up 8 stitches from here, just continuing on this here same needle that I'm working on. And to get the 8, start right after where you are. There, 1, and take both sides of the last stitch that you see there. Both of these, and make a stitch, create a stitch. So you will have altogether 11 stitches on this here needle. Now I have 10, so I'll need to make one more here before the next needle. And then the next needle has still the ribbing on it, but we won't continue ribbing now, so I'll knit this needle as well as the next one to get to the other side where we are going to pick the stitches as well. Right, and now we are on the other side, and again need to pick 8 stitches there, starting, it's actually part of the ribbing there still, where you need to take the first stitch, and then one with each of the stitches that we left at the side. And this is the 8th one right there, and then these 3 will bring it to 11 stitches on this here needle. So this is what it looks like now. On the finished sock we are now here, and then if you see here there are some decreases here going down or up, and we're going to do that now. First, just knit round once, all these stitches once round. I went round once, and now on the first and the last needle on the round we have 11 stitches, and we need to decrease so that we'll have 8, and we are going to decrease on every second round, and we are decreasing at that end where the cuff is. So I'll first knit towards there, and I stop where there are 3 stitches left, 3, and I'll knit these 2 together now, not the last one there, but these 2, just knit them together there, and then knit across to the other side. Now this is the last needle, and we'll do a decrease. First knit the first one normally, and then a left leaning decrease, slip, knit and pass over, or as I said before, whichever way you prefer to do that stitch, and then finish that needle. And then one round without decreases. So now I'll knit round once with no decreases. That's done. And then we'll do another decrease. This is again the first needle, and I'm knitting towards the end of it, and again stop when there's 3 stitches left and knit the 2 before the last one, knit those 2 together, and then knit the last one, and then again knit across. And after you get here, you will do a decrease just the same way as the last time, that first knit the first stitch and then knit these 2 together left leaning. So the way I did it, I slip the first one, knit the next one and pass it through. I did that, and now the first and the last needles each have 9 stitches on them. The next round again is without decreases, and after that decrease one more time just the same way, and that will give you 8 stitches on the first needle and on the last needle. So first a round without decreases and then decrease once more. I'm now showing it over a finished sock. So after the decreases we have a bit to do before we start decreasing for the toes. I'm going to do 8 rounds here now, but it depends a bit on how big you want the sock to be. This is now for a baby up to 3 months, but you can use the same kind of a sock for a bigger one so that you knit longer. So I'm knitting 8 rounds now, but you could knit say 15 and then the sock is a bit bigger. So now simply knit round 8 or more rounds, and then after that we start decreasing for the toes. Now I'm ready to start the decreases for the toes. First we need to even up the number of stitches. There's 8 on these 2 and 10 on these. We need to move them so that there's 9 on each. So I'll take 1 from that and put it on that needle, and the same on the other side. Now there's 9 on each of the needles. That way we can get even decreases. And now the decreases will be this way, so that the heel is at the bottom and the decreases are at the sides of the foot. So I'm starting here where I am in the middle of the sole and starting to knit. And also here we always stop so that there's 3 stitches on the needle, and on the first needle we knit them together, which is a right leaning decrease, and then the last on this here will never decrease that. And the same then on the next needle, you knit first 1, and there will never be decreases above that one. And then you take a left leaning decrease next, and then knit the rest of this here needle. So now when we are looking at it like this, the decreases start going that way. And then we'll do 2 more decreases at this end. Now again, the third and the second from the end, knit them together, and then the last stitch. And here the same, you knit first 1 and then the next 2 together. and then finish off that needle. And we continue like this, just the same. So again knitting so that I'll have 3 stitches left, and those 2 together, and knit that. So now there's 2 decreases one after another, and here the same. And there's never a decrease in the middle of the sock or in the middle of the sole of the sock. Here again, the third and the second from the end, like that. And then here knit 1, and then decrease the second and the third, like that. And continue like this. By the time you only have 3 or 4 stitches left on the needles, you may want to join them, so that instead of 4 you'll end up having just 2 needles. I'll show you that in a minute. I'll continue like this now. Quite a bit more of it done now, and at this stage now I have 4 stitches on each of the needles, so I'm not taking the 5th needle anymore. Instead I continue knitting using this same needle, and here decrease and knit and turn, and again on this side I will just use the 1 needle now for all of them, otherwise exactly the same as before. That needle goes away. Now there's 1 in the middle there left, and otherwise not many stitches left. And on this side, because the starting is on the other side, there's only now these stitches that we decrease. And on this here side I have 5 stitches, and what I'm going to do now is actually decrease 3 at the same time. First slip and then knit the next 2 together and pass that over, and the last stitch and the last needle now, knit that and then knit those 2 together, and the last one, and then cut the yarn and pass it through the last of the stitches. Whatever, if you like to use a needle or just pulling them one by one, all of them. That's it done, and then you just finish off the yarn ends and make another one like it. I always actually wash the items before giving them to a baby, because all industrial yarns have chemicals in them. So after you wash it, then just set it nice so that it dries into shape. There we are.